We are quite fortunate at the moment when it comes to coronavirus, but we can't be relaxed, can we? Can't be too relaxed about it.
No, I think we don't want to panic, but on the other hand, we can be prepared. And what you've just been saying about hand washing and using the sanitizing hand gel is really, really important. And it's something that we can all do. And even if we think that coronavirus is going to come and get us, it's going to help to reduce the amount of colds and flus that we get. And also norovirus, which is spread from hand contact to mouth in most cases. So basic hand washing and using the gel are really, really important.
And avoiding playing with your face.
Avoiding playing with your face. I was just coming on to that. So, make sure that you keep your hands away from your face, away from your eyes, your nose, your mouth, because that's a route of transmission. So we know that the virus can survive for up to 72 hours possibly on surfaces. So if someone else has deposited some virus there and you've picked it up on your hands, then you put it into your face, that's a route of transmission. So being aware of that fact is really important.
Now, well, actually, that is news to me. I've been talking about this most days, and what you've just said is news to me. I wasn't certain about surfaces, but you say it can survive for 72 hours on a surface.
Yeah. So that means, with flu, we used to say 48 hours, but the latest work seems to show that it may be longer than that. So that does mean that we've all got a responsibility to try to stop it going on surfaces. So that's why we sneeze or cough into the crook of our arm or use a tissue, not our hands. And if we happen to get it on our hands, we need to use the hand sanitizer if we're on the go. So try to keep it off the surfaces, but basically assume it's there and wash your hands afterwards.
I'm going to get real nuts and bolts with you here. I mean, I've got my hand gel and I'm using it fairly regularly. If I go to the loo here at work or in a cafe or something, I wash my hands. But then I open the door with the handle that I haven't cleaned. I suppose if I've got a scarf on, I can grab the scarf and pull the handle that way or something. But let's say, in said cafe, I sit down at a table that somebody else has just used. I mean, should I wipe it? Should I get all Monica from Friends and just wipe it? Have wipes in my bag?
Well, it's a good point. What I'm tending to do now is go to the toilet, wash my hands, obviously, come out, try not to hold any handles if possible on the way out. But if I do, when I sit down, I'll use the hand gel again and this is really important if you're travelling on a train or a plane, because from the toilet to your seat, you may have touched quite a lot of surfaces. So it's just another backup. Now, if I'm hot desking or if I'm going to a radio studio, which I'm doing quite a lot of at the moment, I will take some wipes with me and I will wipe the surface down in front of me under headphones, because I want to protect myself and I don't know who's been there before. And we do know that a lot of people don't wash their hands very much.
Well, James O'Brien has a cold and I'm sitting in the same place as him with his headphones on. So, we're in big trouble if he's got coronavirus, but I'm sure he hasn't and I hope he's very well. But actually, what you're describing then is a grade higher than what I'm doing.
Just a little bit, yeah. I think if you're hot desking at work, then it doesn't harm to just clean your area, because once you sit down in that area, you probably start to do all the things that you shouldn't do, like touch your face. Because that's just one of the natural things that we do. So if you can sort of try and make your area clean and your hands clean, then if you do happen to touch your face, it's not going to be as potentially catastrophic as it might be if you've got dirty hands or if you've got coronavirus on your hands.
What about masks? I've noticed people, often you see it around central London anyway, people wearing face masks. Are they pointless when it comes to coronavirus?
Well, they could be, because particularly I've seen people wearing them in all sorts of different ways, like only covering their mouth with them, fiddling with them, taking them off and then putting them on. And in fact, while you're doing that, it could be counterproductive, because you could actually be infecting yourself while you're putting your dirty hands onto the mask and then the mask onto your nose. So it's better really not to. The advice at the moment is to use the mask if you have the symptoms, but not as a preventive measure for the general population. That might
because at least it's a barrier for sneezing and things like that, or something of a barrier for sneezing.
Yeah. But I mean, really, if you're sneezing and coughing, you should stay at home. Tell that to your colleague.
Apparently, some of the most commonly searched questions on Google about coronavirus, I've asked you a couple of them already, but here's one: can you get it twice? It's still new, so I mean, I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that question. But it is possible that you might have faded immunity over a period of time, or it might mutate, of course. It was clear yesterday, and another question is it safe to travel? I mean, so far, the advice from Matt Hancock in the Commons yesterday was avoid Italy north of the affected area, but don't avoid Naples or Florence or Siena even,
Yeah, I think the thing to do is keep an eye on the government website. If you've already booked something, then you're not going to get a refund unless there's actually advice not to travel to particular areas. So it's going to have to be very much your personal decision about whether you do that. And that really does make it very, very difficult for people. And, I've spoken to people this morning who've got children and they're worried about, them getting infected and so on. Or if you're very elderly, you might think, well, actually, I've already got a bit of a respiratory problem. The last thing I want to do is put myself under risk. And the other thing to think about is if you do go to an area that's potentially going to be in a lockdown situation, are you prepared to stay there for 14 days in a hotel?
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's another thing to think about.
It is. I've had a Twitter message from a regular listener saying, I'm looking forward to your Corona hour. Good, Adele, thank you. I'm not so scared of the illness, she says, but being caught abroad in a hotel for 2 weeks of quarantine terrifies me. Probably cancelling a trip to Ghent. One of us is 85 and has decided doesn't want to travel. I'm coming round to this view. What would your advice be on travel?
It's got to be personal, but on the other hand, if you know you're susceptible, then you might, if there's any chance you can reschedule till a safer time, then that might be a good plan. And until we actually get the right to cancel, really, through the government saying you must not travel, then the trouble is a lot of people won't be able to get a refund for their travel plans. But if you are very vulnerable, if you've got respiratory problems already, then you are in that group of people who could be severely affected if you do get coronavirus.
There's also, we're waiting for this new round of public information. Do you know when that's coming? Is it tomorrow? Is it early next week?
Well, I think it's just ongoing, really. I mean, there's all sorts of public... Yeah. I mean, as soon as anything comes up that the public need to know about, then that's going to come out. Well, but I would say in the meantime, when we get all this information about regular hand washing, what we should be thinking about is when we need to do the hand washing. And that doesn't seem to come out quite so much. And that is on reaching a destination. That is when, especially if you've been travelling on public transport, that's when you need to do the hand washing more than ever, obviously after the toilet and so on. But I think we need to focus on people when they get to work or school or university, wash your hands straight away without touching anything else.
And if the next sort of major announcement is an increase in advice or a change in what's happening, what might that look like? I mean, will public places, for example, would there be advice to close cinemas and I'm talking down the line if it were to become an Italy situation, which thankfully it isn't. But is that the kind of move that the cities and towns start to make, just close down public spaces a bit?
Well, I guess what we can only do is look and see what other people have done to try to reduce the risk of it spreading. And any of those things that have happened could happen to us. And really, it's difficult to guess or see into the future. What we know now might be so totally different to what happens in a week's time. And there's emerging information coming out all the time. I mean, the Lancet, for example, has a particular open access area that you can go in and look at all the new papers, the scientific papers that have been produced as they're coming out, which is fantastic. But, we're learning all the time about this. I just read something about it possibly being transmitted from fecal-oral routes. So, in other words, that makes it even more important for us to wash our hands after going to the toilet as well as all the other times.
Very politely put, if I may say. Exactly. Fecal-oral.
I won't tell you how they tested people.
Well, I don't want to know. I said a few days ago that years ago I was on a hostile environment course for dealing with difficult environments, what have you, and the fecal-oral module was put rather less politely that it was eat you know what and you die. So anyway, I think I know the answer already to the question I'm about to ask you, but it's worth asking anyway. What's the one piece of advice that you think people should take away from my conversation with you? Is it hands and face? Wash hands, avoid face.
Wash your hands, avoid your face. Absolutely.
Okay. It's quite catchy, isn't it? Thank you, Dr. Lisa Ackley. I'm going to upgrade my habits now. I think I need an antiseptic wipe in my bag as well. Thank you, or a whole packet of them. Thanks very much indeed. Dr. Lisa Ackley, advisor to the Royal Society for Public Health.